That summer I was 7, and the old house by the pines wore the day like a bright, patient thing. The kitchen clock kept time with the creak of the floorboards, and the light spilled in long, shy ribbons along the linoleum, as if the sun itself did not wish to rush through these rooms, only to linger and learn their quiet names. We had come to stay with Grandma while the city breathed itself to pieces in the heat, and the house, in its slow, unsentimental way, welcomed us as if we were small travellers returning from a voyage that had never truly ended. My cousin Lila was the one who held the house in focus for us. She had a way of looking at rooms as if she could measure the years stacked in their corners, like jars of preserves on a pantry shelf. She was older than me by almost a year, a plain thing to look at. Then one August morning, she vanished, not leaving a note for us to find, not even a whisper to tell us that she might be returning soon. She simply ceased to be visible in our world, as though a page had torn from the book of the summer, and no one had noticed the missing margin until it was too late to mend. The adults spoke of accidents and trains and the ordinary cruelty of time, with a measured seriousness that gave us something to hide behind. Like coats on a cold day, but the house, oh, the house had a memory as wide as the sea and as deep as a well. It kept Lila inside its walls, where the light fell through the attic window and stayed there, stubborn as a rumour, long after we had closed the door. To keep Lila near us, we played a game we did not yet understand as ritual. We laid a circle of coins, 2 old pennies, a nickel, and a half-dime around the photograph of Lila that rested on Grandma's mantel, the one where she wore the blue dress and stood by a lilac bush in the yard. We whispered her name in the turn of dusk, when the house settled into a hush, as if the day itself exhaled. We whispered what we hoped she would hear, that we still remembered her, that the sea would remember to call her name when it washed over the shore in the late, tired light of evening. The little circle shivered on the dusty floor like something alive, sending out a tide of warmth that made the back of the neck prick with a strange waking tremor. The house did not respond with a shout or a crash, but with a patient, almost polite, a breath of air that found its way through the vents and made the curtains wave as if a hand brushed across them. The floors creaked, as though a visitor walked in a room long after the visitors had left. And if you stood very still, you could swear you heard the soft, almost inaudible sound of someone sitting down in the chair where the photograph rested, a figure that did not belong to the circle or the memory, but to the space that memory always claims. I learned slowly that I did not understand the word haunting until the memory of that summer began to annotate my life. The house listened as I grew, and I grew as the house listened, as if time itself listened to the same worn ceiling and the same waiting door. The attic, where Lila's memory seemed to gather its frost, became a field that we could barely walk through, without feeling the quiet pressure of being watched by something that was not quite a person and not quite a memory either. Years, many of them, passed like a tide that forgot a shoreline and then remembered it again. Grandma's house aged with us, its walls thinning in the cold of winter and catching light like old paper in the summer sun. I moved away for a long stretch of life, work and weather, and the kind of sorrow that stays behind you like a steady breath you cannot escape. And yet during every return, the house was always there, as if its bones remembered the roots of my footprints and the rhythm of my own breath. In the quiet of old age, when the world has taught you more about yourself than you ever expected to learn, I found a door in the attic that I had not noticed before. It was not a door that anyone would tell you existed. It was the kind of thing you discover when you stop looking at the walls, as if they were simply there to hold a roof and a ceiling and a life, and instead hear them as something that holds you to time itself. The latch was stiff, and the air that came through it tasted faintly of rain that never reached our summer days. Beyond it lay a room I could not have named as a room, but which felt like a memory that had learned to stand. Inside this hidden chamber sat a trunk, old and reliable as a good friend who knows the secrets you pretend not to know. The lid bore a label in a handwriting I recognized from my mother's books, the careful, looping script that taught me to read. The trunk housed the things I had forgotten to forget. There were letters that my mother had written to no one in particular, and there were photographs of people I did not remember ever meeting, and there was a single sheet of paper, brittle as dried kelp, with a map drawn on it that looked like our town, but older, before the roads, before the shops, before the bright glare of the present day. In the margin of that map, someone had penciled a few words that made my breath catch in my chest. A name, Lila's name, the very name that had begun the memory that had kept my childhood in a circle around Grandma's mantel. The paper pressed in my hand as if it had always meant to rest there, as if it had waited for me to align the stars of memory with the real world once more. Then I found a letter that had never taken a form in life, only in the quiet between one day and the next, when you think you have forgotten something, but you have not. The letter, written in the same careful handwriting, did not tell of the day she vanished. It did not offer any explanation at all. It told me to listen, not to the present, but to the past that never truly leaves a house once it has found a way to cling to its corners. It told me that the circle of coins around the photograph was not a game, but a kind of prayer, a request to leave a door ajar for memory to slip back in whenever grief pretends to be quiet. It told me that Lila's memory settled into certain rooms and chose certain days to rise again, as if the house itself remembered what we forgot to remember. When I came to face the truth, I did so without the drama of a revelation, but with the slow, heavy certainty of someone who has carried a weight long enough to know its shape by touch. Lila had not vanished into the world without trace. She had remained, but not as a girl I could call a friend. She had remained as a voice in the walls, the sense of cold air that brushes across the nape of your neck when the room is bare of all other warmth. She remained in pictures that age with me, but do not grow old in the same way I do.